Was your Tyler's back with the retro reviews here on Tyler's Retro Reviews with ECW Anarchy Rulz 1999 with this weird cover. It's graffiti artists with barbed wire in the logo. Yeah. Awkward. Now, this was this like last year in September. I did Fall Brawl 1999, and then I did Unforgiven 1999. But there was one missing throughout that. Like, why the September portion? I did No Surrender 2006 from TNA, which okay, I'll give it to myself. I want to talk about that show, but still. But still, this took place on September 19th at the Almond in Chicago, Illinois. That's marketing research, and there's that. And also, this was the first, not only the first Anarchy Rulz pay-per-view, but it was also the first pay-per-view when ECW went on national television. Now, we don't know about this whole thing. I mean, I did a dumpster fire on it, but I gotta say that the first 2 weeks, that's all I did. I just watched the first 2 weeks. I didn't talk about the rest of it because there was not a real build towards this show. Their first outing was just recaps of stuff that happened like a few months back. And then their first official one, technically, it's the second one, that saw the Dudley's last appearance in the original ECW, except for one in 2000, I don't remember. Because, one, ECW at that point was on his deathbed before guilty as charged, which, spoiler for December. And mostly that. And then that same one that, the Dudleys were on their way out, Raven came back after, that Las Vegas Nitro before that, where the Kiss Demon came into WCW, that one I did also. So Raven went back to ECW. He couldn't go to WWE, or WWF rather, because he had a 1-year no-compete clause, but ECW wasn't part of that confrontation. So, basically, there's that. And Raven and Tommy Dreamer won the tag team titles. So you got these two mortal enemies, tag team partners. So that's like the weirdest pet peeve in wrestling. Two hated rivals are now all of a sudden tag team champions. Yeah. Let's get on to this pay-per-view now. I've been talking for 4 minutes and I talk about Anarchy Rulz yet, and you know what next week's review will be. I won't tell you yet until the end of this. So, there's that. We start off with Lance Storm defeating Jerry Lynn in a pretty good match. Although, what's the build towards this? Not at all. But still, it was still a good match. You know, I give it an 8 out of 10. I'll give it. Now, the next thing, it's just you could call this 2 matches in a row, but Simon Dunn comes out. You know, he does the whole Simon Says thing where he's this Tom Margwa here, you know, the one who was doing like the bell kicking. He didn't say Simon Says yet, and then Jazz comes down and he says, "Hold, I didn't say Simon Says, and also you're a woman," which this led to Jazz defeating Tom Marquis by disqualification. First off, this is ECW. Why do we have DQs in ECW? Although it's not as bad as WWE's reboot. But still, then Chris Che and Nova comes out. This is a tag match between them against Simon Dunn and Tony DeVito, which this ends in a no contest. Because Chris Che got injured during this. And Tony DeVito, the Danny Jordan Roadkill also came out. A bunch of random, the future Alita was there also, but I don't think she was around much longer after this, which, there's that. Then all hell breaks loose, then New Jack comes out, and I don't know how you rate this match, because I can't, because these are one gigantic segment. Really. I mean, New Jack's gonna be DLC in this month also. So there's that. I can't believe he's in a WWE game also. Still, I can't rate it. Although to start the New Jack Baldy's feud. The less I say about that feud, the better. Because you want to see my dumpster fire on that, go right ahead. Because, yeah. Then we get a 3-way dance between Tajiri defeating Super Crazy and Lil Guido. This was another great match. Yeah, 8.5 I'll give that match. You know, Tajiri won, and there's that. Anyways, then we get Just Incredible defeating Sabu. Rest in peace to Sabu, by the way. This started like Sabu he was banned from competing in ECW and storyline wise. I don't know. Yeah, I'm using my quotation marks for that because this is mostly a storyline, but. And then this led to this whole thing going from after, I believe it was after at Hardcore Heaven, it led to you know, at Heat Wave, and then here's that. And Just Incredible before the match wants to tell him that Sabu cannot come out here, and they said it's Anarchy Rules, you know, cause it's called Anarchy Rules. Just Incredible attacks the ring announcer and almost attacks the ref, and then the lights go out and Sabu is in the ring, and this actually helped Just Incredible, although a lot of people sour on his ECW title run, and I can understand the criticism about that because ECW around 2000 was worse than WCW. And the less I say about those, well, I just spoiled a WCW pay-per-view in 2000, but you obviously know by the community tab on this specific channel. Still, it did help him out, you know, 7.5 out of 10 will give this match. Then this was supposed to be just Taz versus Masada Tanaka in a for the ECW Championship. And speaking of pure going to be out the door, Taz with another person was going to be out the door, and he would go to WWF after this. And however, Mike Awesome was in the crowd, and this led to a three-way dance. And Paul even says, "Let him go," and this led to a three-way dance for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship. Mike Awesome defeats Masato Tanaka and Taz to win the ECW World Heavyweight Championship. I mean, Taz was the first man eliminated in this match because, like I said before, he had 1 foot out the door. And by November, to remember, he was gone for a few months. And Mike Awesome wins the ECW title and got the belt handed by Taz. But the Mike Awesome experience in ECW didn't last long either, because by April of 2000, Mike Awesome was in WCW. And then they had to do, this famous thing about the ECW title around this time. For all the wrong and right reasons. Both. Mike Awesome, you probably know this. Mike Awesome, a WCW wrestler, who is the ECW champion, fought Taz, a WWF wrestler, for the ECW title. So it was WCW versus WWF for the ECW title, and Taz won the title, and we obviously know about that. Taz won the title, and he was actually allowed to show up with the belt because of the working agreement. They still, between WWF and ECW, are still around that time. .5 I'll give this match. Doing it for the ECW Tag Team Championships. Tommy Dreamer and Raven defeats Rhino and Steve Corino and Jack Victory. This wasn't really much of a match. It was mostly Rhino or Tommy Dreamer versus Rhino and Steve Corino, and then Raven didn't show up until way later on, and then one even full DC is enough to take down Rhino. Yeah, welcome to ECW, Rhino. I mean, you'll get better when the following year when things really got went downhill for ECW. I mean, no offense to him. Still. And Dreamer and Raven pinned Steve Corino and Jack Victory, who, was he part of the match or not? Was this a handicap match? What the fuck was this? There's that. I mean, a 4 out of 10 I'll give it. Yeah, 4 out of 10. And then finally for the main event, for the ECW Television Championship, yes, the secondary belt went on after the world title. Weird, huh? Rob Van Dam defeats Balls Mahoney to retain the Television Championship. Good match. Although RV was supposed to face somebody else, but then there was a brawl and with the Impact players and this other guy, I don't know who he was. Let me see if this is on here. Johnny Smith. I don't know who the fuck he was. That's who it was. But there was a brawl and then Balls Mahoney took his spot also. Okay, so apparently we get changed up in pay-per-views, apparently. So, a good match. Yeah. Already won because this was during his long run as World Television Championship, and yeah, 8 out of 10 I'll give it. You know, this was actually a good show. I mean, compared it to Fall Brawl and Unforgiven, yeah, this show was significantly better than those. Yeah. But there was some weird stuff on this show, really. So, I give it a 6.5 out of 10. Now, next week is WCW New Blood Rising 2000. Why? And SmackDown will be tomorrow and Saturday. I guess the Go Diego Go Sorari Adventure Gary, whatever it was. But those are my main channels. Subscribe to the notification bell on that one, and also like this video, comment below, subscribe to this channel here also, and click the notification bell also. In there. Bye-bye.